Yes, guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Adam from Hair System DIY here. I've got Michael on the call with me today. Michael has his own YouTube channel. It's called Michael Joseph. I highly recommend it. I've been following him for quite some time. He's got some really good content out there. So please do check him out and subscribe to his channel. So let's get on with it. Michael, welcome to my channel. Welcome to the call. How are you doing?
Man, doing really well. Like we were saying before, or I was saying before we started recording, super looking forward to being here. Conversations like this, I think are not being had enough. So kudos to you. Thank you for having me, and looking forward to sharing as much as I can.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on. And yeah, it feels weird talking to someone who's basically back in the past. It's actually pitch black in the UK. It's about 6:10, and I'm guessing where you are, it's sort of mid-morning, maybe.
Yep, it's a little after 11 a.m. So I'm in the past. I want to get the lottery numbers from you. I want to know who wins the World Series. Like, I have questions about the future.
Don't worry, mate. I'll send you a WhatsApp at the end of this call. I'll give you everything you need to know.
Beautiful. Checks in the mail.
Right. So the first thing I sort of wanted to ask you is, when did you first start noticing hair loss, and when did it start affecting you, emotionally and mentally?
Yeah, great question. So I am 36 now. I'll be 37 literally a month from now. And I noticed the thinning probably around 20 or so. I didn't really think too much of it, but around that age, I was noticing hair everywhere. It was coming out a little too fast for my liking. And then it didn't really affect my confidence until I was about 22 ish. And it was like really thin at that point. I think I was 24 or 25 when I actually started shaving my head bald. The transitional period from that, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot from 20 to 24, but that 4-year period felt like a lifetime. Very self-conscious. I was always kind of checking to see who was looking at my hair. It was very on my mind. So, 24/7 for 4 years is like 900 years. It felt like. So, but once I started shaving my head, I actually liked it. The shape of my head is actually pretty decent. But I also knew I looked a lot older. I was 25, 26 years old, and people would guess I was 30 plus. So I didn't also like that at the same time, but that's the age range that I started noticing.
And before sort of you got to hair systems, did you try, I mean, you said that you sort of shaved your head, which must have actually been initially kind of scary, I imagine. I never actually got to that point. I can imagine it being super, super scary, thinking, how's this going to look? What are people going to think? Am I going to be accepted with this look?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it's funny. It was kind of an accident how it happened. This is a crazy story, but two things in that. One is, between those ages, I had tried using some topicals. I will say, in the moment, I thought it was a great idea. Looking back in hindsight, it looked terrible. Like, it was, in the moment, I was like, oh, this is great. Nobody knows. Like, I have a full head of hair. It looked terrible. Okay. Like, looking back, I have one picture, and I'm like, what was I thinking? It does not look great at all for me when I was using. And so when I started shaving my head, it was actually by accident, because I started buzzing my head, because I noticed I go get a haircut, and they were like, yeah, we're probably just going to buzz it all to the same length. It helps to, kind of ease the look of this thing. And so I was like, oh, I could do that. So I started doing it myself, and I'll spare a lot of the details. It's actually a really crazy story, but I was in a situation where I was in a hotel. I had my little clippers, and I was doing my hair, and the guard slipped off, and I actually scalped the back of my head. And I was like, okay, there's no getting around this. I can't hide that. So I knew what I needed to do. I buzzed the rest of it as close as I could, and then I just shaved it all down. And so that, that was it. And it was scary. I was like, damn, I do not want to do this. It was a kind of admitting defeat in a way. But for me at the time, that was an amazing decision. Like I really loved it. I rocked a bald head for like 9 years, almost 10 years. And I was kind of known as the bald guy. I'm an entrepreneur as well. So I have a couple of businesses that I run. So I'm very public with that business. And so everyone just kind of recognized me as that bald entrepreneur guy. Like that was my identity for 10 years. And so then on the flip side, getting into hair systems about a year and a half ago, doing probably 6 months of research and contemplation and things like that, I was like, well, who am I with hair? If I've always been the bald guy and that's now my identity, who is this new version of Michael that's going to have hair? That seems equally as scary. So, they're all scary. They all can actually be difficult, but there's always that piece, that quote that says, choose your hard, right? Is it hard being bald and looking older than you are? Is it hard having hair and what do people think about it? And is it going to work for me and those kinds of things? And for me, I was going through a lot of transitions. I wanted to experience hair again because I loved having it when I was, 16, 17. And so I did it, jumped in.
Mm-hmm. And did you find that you mentioned about it sort of challenging your identity initially when you lost your hair, because you lost your first identity, I suppose, which was when you had hair, bio hair. But then I suppose it must have just been another sort of identity challenge, I suppose it were when you were like, right, I don't want to be bald anymore. I want to have hair again. Was that like a different identity to, I suppose, your first identity with bio hair? Or was it sort of reminiscent of that first identity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really thought about it. I was like, well, when was the happiest time of my life? When was I the most happy? And I went through this list, and it wasn't always physical, but when I got to the physical kind of attributes, I was like, I thought about everything other than my hair because I didn't really think about it too much at that point. And I was like, I was working out more, I was active, and yeah, I could definitely, I need more of that in my life. So that's something I'll start kind of implementing more. And then when it got to the appearance of things, I was like, gosh, the clothes that I wear are kind of like, I don't care about my clothes, but I do want to upgrade my look and the feel, because I feel like my self-worth is increasing. And now I do actually care about presenting myself and showing up well. And part of the appearance actually equated to hair. When I was the most happy, I had hair. I was, 16, 17. I actually had pretty long hair and it was very thick. And I was like, yeah, I really did enjoy that. And so then I went on the journey of like, how would I do that? Do I get kind of an expensive or maybe even painful surgery? Do I go back to these topicals, which honestly for me was laughable when I did it? And that's when I came across information on hair systems, and I didn't realize that was a thing. And I just found more and more information on it, looked into the viability of me doing that. And like I said, about 6 months of contemplation and research and looking into things, videos like yours. I mean, I saw a lot of content out there, and I was like, I'm going to just try it. If it's not good, I don't like it, it doesn't work for me, I take it off and I go back to shaving my head. Easy. Mm-hmm. So, after that 6 month kind of incubation period, and then I jumped in.
And what was the first system that you got?
Yeah, it was the very first one was from Lord Hair, the UTS model, full poly base. Actually, it's the exact unit I'm wearing now, not the same exact, but the same model. I think the first one that I got, I want to say the 210 color. So I think there's 10% gray, kind of a dark brown. And I don't know if you can tell, I got a few little grays here.
I didn't notice, but now I look closely, I can see it.
Now it's there. Now you can't unsee. But I thought, yeah, start with 10%, see what that does. It wasn't actually gray enough. The sides and back of my hair doesn't have nearly as much gray. So I figured 10%. So now I rock 220 color. That works really well. I could probably even go with more gray, but my philosophy is like, why? I don't need to have more gray. So, but that was the UTS model. I went with the poly base because of my research. I felt like it probably would be more comfortable for me, which turns out is true, at least for myself. I've tried French lace, Swiss lace, different combinations, and poly is always the most comfortable for me. I do work out and I live a pretty active lifestyle. But I've been skydiving in this very same unit. I've been snorkeling, work out fairly consistently. So I sweat a lot. And even still, it's the most comfortable for me. So I've been I'll kind of stick to that kind of idea. But that was the first unit.
And with the poly, how long do you find you get out of it? Because I find that the times in terms of the period of time that people can get out of the system can really depend on how well they treat it and how they take care of the system, how well they sort of clean it, don't go crazy with the hairdryer and that kind of thing. So how long do you usually get out of your poly system?
You know, that's a good question. I still have some of my very first units a year and a half ago that I could still rock. I know I could.
Yeah.
The one thing that I have not really delved into is dyeing my system because it's just not something I really want to do.
Takes a brave man to do it. I've never tried it myself. I'm worried it will dye the base.
Yeah. It seems like a whole thing. And I don't have the desire to kind of go down that route personally. But the poly systems that I've used, the bases themselves are in still pretty great shape 3 months in. But around that time frame, like this one, I think I've been wearing for 2 months or so. And you probably can't actually notice it too much here, but it's lightened up just a little bit. In fact, I mean, I can see it, here's most of the difference between the unit and my bio hair. And it's just a little bit lighter. Nobody would really think too much of it.
It's very subtle, I'd say.
It is subtle. So over the next month or so, it'll lighten up a little bit more. But the base itself, there's no rips, there's no tears. And I've done a lot over this last 2 months, and it, by all, my understanding prior to wearing, I would have assumed, a thin 0.03 millimeter polyurethane membrane should have ripped or something, and it hasn't, not even on the edges. So, but I would say about 3 months in, that's when I start seeing the edges. I can get a little tear here and there, and it's mostly because I sleep on my back and my side, so I'm getting a lot of wear and tear that way. My front hairline, I'll usually trim and cut a little bit to keep it more of a natural kind of vibe, and I'm not cutting it in a very clean serrated edge. It's kind of choppy, and so that can start to see extra wear on it too. But I'll typically wear it for about 3 months before I'm just ready for a new style anyway. And so I'm kind of on that train about 3 months or so. But could I get 4 or 5 months out of it? Certainly. Absolutely. Especially if I'm willing to dye the hair. I mean, I really could get longer out of it.
Is that the next logical step for you, do you think? You're going to take the dive and try and eventually...
I might as well. I mean, I have other units that are in great shape. I like the cut and the style of it. Who am I hurting if I go and give it a shot, right? It could turn out great. You never know. But that's the next, I think the next logical step is just to try it on a unit that I'm not currently wearing, and don't mind if I, make an unfortunate mistake with it.
I tell you what, Michael, that's a video that people are crying out for, a video of a system wear actually dyeing the hair. Because I actually haven't seen one. So there's an idea for you for your next YouTube video if you want.
There you go. Putting it on the list. That could be fun. That could be really fun, actually.
Yeah. Do you think you'd do it on an old base that you've had before?
I would. Yeah. I've got two. I think I've got 2 others that I still really like, but they've lightened up. The hair's lightened up quite a bit. That would be a perfect candidate for something like that. Absolutely. I wouldn't like, this one is great. I love this unit. I didn't really do much to my hair today. It's been one of those things where I was like, I know I'm going to be on this video, and I just wanted you to see like what it looks like on a normal basis. I have a couple other videos and photos and things where I've done my hair up and stuff like that, so I can see kind of a natural, this is a work day for me, so I got a bunch of calls scheduled for the day, and so it's just one of those things that this is just naturally what it's going to look like on a daily basis. But yeah, I've got a couple other units that I'd love to experiment with, see what I can do with it. But yeah, if that's something that people want, Absolutely. I'll do something like that.
Right,
No harm, no
people, in
foul
the
by doing it.
comments box, put below in the comments box, do you want this video? It's a big yes
I'll
from
do it.
me.
If we get enough comments and enough
If we get
interest,
enough
I will
comments.
absolutely do it. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about what products you tend to use and what you find best for. I mean, you say that now you wear poly bases. So what do you find gives you the best hold, the best comfort in terms of products on a poly base?
Beautiful question. So I want to preface this by saying that any product that you choose to try could actually work for you. For me, this is what's worked. I started off using Ghost Bond. I can't remember the exact one, but it was one of the white ones. And because that's all I'd seen at that point, a lot of people had been using it. It made sense to me. So I was like, yeah, perfect. I'll try that. Seems like it's easy cleanup and it seems like a good one. And I will say that I could probably get a week or so of wear, but almost within a matter of days, the front hairline was completely loose, and it just didn't seem to make sense. So I was like, well, what else is out there? And so the more digging I did, the more I realized that there's something called Ultra Hold from Walker Tape, and I was like, gosh, everyone that I've seen says it's messy, it's hard to clean up, it's all these things, but it does offer some additional hold time. And so I was like, well, what do I have to lose? I can't keep doing this where it's loose after a couple of days. And so I gave it a shot. I ordered a smaller bottle. And I will say immediately I was like, okay, this is going to be harder to clean up. It's thicker. It's acrylic based, not water based. So if I try to clean it with anything with water, it's not going to phase it too much. And I will say that there are some drawbacks to it. It is harder to clean, meaning it takes a little bit longer to clean. But I absolutely love it. I've stuck with that. Also, the new-ish product from MHE, I think they call it Extreme Clear or Clear Extreme or something like that. I've tried that one. That one's also really good. I'll probably keep picking that one up too. But Ultra Hold has been my favorite adhesive by far, at least for my skin type and for what I'm using it for. So that's been really cool. I'll get a full, I can easily go 2 weeks without a reinstall. Typically about a week and a half in, I'm ready for it because my bio hair is under there. It's getting uncomfortable. So I want to clean it and shave things down. But I could easily do 2 weeks. It won't be the most comfortable at 2 weeks because I do sweat. I do have body oils and things like that. So it's ready. It's not going to fall off my head. It's still loose. I could slide it around if I really wanted to, which is a kind of a weird thing in general.
It's got a weird concept.
Yeah, it is a weird vibe, but like at the same time, I could do it if I needed to. And I have actually recently because I wanted to see how long I could kind of push it. In 2 weeks, I was just like, I'm ready for this thing to come off. So, but yeah, Walker Tape's Ultra Hold. I use that. And it seems to be working out really well. I also use the Max Hold Sport scalp protectant. That seems to enhance some things for me. And yeah, that's pretty much all I use for the application process.
Well, I get so many people who ask about Ultra Hold because they tend to sweat a lot, and I've heard from many people that Ultra Hold's really good for if you're active and you're sweating a lot, and it maintains that hold from what I've heard again and again and again. Would you sort of back that up as well?
Yeah, I would. It's one of those things where in my experience, when I sweat and with Ultra Hold, I know I could pull on my front hairline, especially because that's where I'm sweating the most, and it would come up. It absolutely could. But what ends up happening is when that sweat either dries or the fun experience of like I can literally push the sweat out. So weird, but I get the sweat out, so it's not just sitting there. Well, when it dries, it goes back to its kind of original hold, and so it's one of those things where after I sweat and I work out or whatever I do, I just remove the sweat that didn't naturally come out anyway, and then 20 minutes later it's dry and we're back in business. So as long as you're not tugging on it and things like that, you're going to be in really good shape, because it is acrylic based. It's not really breaking down. It's just getting loose because it's wet. And so that's where the protectant helps. When it's a fresh install and I go work out, it's a different story. But a week in, it'll come loose if you pull on it. Just don't pull on it. You're good. And
what's your opinion on tapes? Have you ever tried tapes?
I have. I tried tapes. It would not bad. For me, it actually took longer to apply because I was new to it and I've only tried it a couple of times. I know plenty of people that use tape and like it. For me, it's just I have the Ultra Hold, the process that I use. I can just boop, 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 and it's exactly where I need it. So I don't have to cut any tapes and try to place it and things like that. So I've tried it, but I prefer using a liquid adhesive. It works better for me. It's easier for me. If I were to install for someone else, I think I'd have fun using tape, but I'd still use Ultra Hold. I think at that point, just the process that I use to apply my system, it's hard with tape for me. So I just use
as well, because you've got an ultra thin skin with tape, might make it easier to tear.
Yeah. If I had a lace system, I would probably definitely use tape because I think that would be easier. I would imagine easier cleanup and things like that. But poly system, the liquid adhesive works really well for me.
Yeah, I remember actually one of the first ever mistakes I made when I started wearing a system. I got the ultra thin skin, which I think is a mistake for someone who's a first time wearer who's trying to do it themselves like I did. And I used tape without sort of having any knowledge about it. And I remember I pulled it off a week later, completely tore in half the system. So I learned a valuable lesson that day. But yeah, as you said, it's all right with lace. And I've got a lace frontal with this system. And I don't tend to use tape on the front. I tend to use glue. But if I've got either poly or lace around the horseshoe, as I call it, I always tend to sort of use tape. But I see a lot of people who get just as good results out of using, a good adhesive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where experimenting is really important. I've tried the different base types. I found what works for me. Right. And that's just, I think you can do as much research, you can ask questions and opinions and things like that. But until you do it, you really don't know 100%. And so I really liked the front hairline of a lace system that I wore. It was a lace front, really. I liked the way it looked and everything, but at the end of the day, I was like, gosh, now this doesn't make as much sense to me. It's not as clean and easy for me. And so I'm just going to stick with what I like. And so everyone finds their thing and it works exactly for them, but you have to experiment a little bit. And the cool thing, just like anything else in life, if we're not satisfied with a variable that, is involved in the process, you can change it up. You can try something new. So it's one of those cool things where we have unlimited ability to create a system in a process that works for us. It's pretty cool. There's a ton of variables out there.
Absolutely. And it's 100% a personal thing. As you said, what might work for one person won't work for the next person. And it's very much sort of personal preference. I wanted to ask as well, because you're from Utah, I believe.
Yep. I live in Utah. Yep.
To my understanding, my American geography isn't amazing, but there's parts of Utah which are very, very hot. Do you find that when it's super, super humid in the summer months, do you find with a poly system that it can get really quite hot under the base?
Oh, good question. So yeah, Utah is interesting because technically it's desert land. So it is drier. It does get hot, but it also experiences plenty of winter. So it's kind of got a little bit of everything. And I will say for me, it's kind of an interesting experience because I've never felt like it's trapping heat in or something like that. Because number one, it is a thin material. And so just like anything else, the heat actually just passes right through it. But I will say recently, we went to Cancun, Mexico for our honeymoon. We've been married about 2 months now. And we went to Cancun, which is hot and it's humid. And I was worried. Okay, I did a fresh install. I was like, I'm going to be ready for this thing. Took some
extra Ultra Hold with you.
I did too. I definitely did. And And so I was a little nervous. Okay. So we get there. It is hot. Okay. It is warm. It's humid. I know that we're gonna be hanging out in the pool, things like that. And so my experience though was that it wasn't hotter. I wasn't just sweating by standing there and like it's trapping all my body heat in, and I'm like a lobster. Here's my experience. Just like any normal human on the planet, you get hot. Sun's on you. You're gonna warm up. You're gonna start sweating. That's just how it works. But we also went snorkeling while we were there. I was a little nervous, not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. You got the goggles on and you're in the water. Yep. It's just like constant splashing. But I was like, you know what? You only live once. What's the worst that could happen? This isn't coming off my head. It may come loose, something like that. But I do not plan, I don't plan on this thing coming off. But I want to experience and I want to have fun here on our honeymoon. My wife, she loves the water. She wanted to go snorkeling. We're gonna go snorkeling. And even still, I mean, I was on a boat for like 5 hours, essentially, in the heat, almost direct sunlight. I did bring a hat because I would wear a hat normally just to shade my eyeballs. And with the hat on and off, constant water, heat, humidity, it wasn't anything different than I'd ever experienced. So no, I don't feel like it does anything different as far as heat is concerned. The only thing is the sweat. I mean, you're going to sweat and it's going to come out of your scalp. So you just have to be, the first time I worked out, I was like, this is so weird. The sweat is like coming out of the sides and like the back and like the places where it could come through where I didn't get all of the adhesive, like 100% covering every little inch of my scalp. So that was weird in itself, but you get used to it. Like, it's actually pretty neat that you can have hair and do these kinds of things. So, but no, I don't feel like there's anything different with it. I tried a lace unit because I was like, well, I feel like this could breathe a lot better and differently. But for me, I couldn't get the hang of using tape and that making sense for me. And I also found the lace, at least French lace, to be a little bit more coarse. And so it would cause it not an irritating amount of itching, but it would tickle the scalp a little bit more the way that I had attached it. And so I didn't find anything drastically different between the two base types for me. But like I said, it's to each their own. You got to find the thing that works for you and makes sense for you, and then just rock it. It's one of those things. I don't think it's actually all that hard to learn how to do this. It does take time to master some things. Like the first unit I put on was like, it wasn't 4 fingers. It was like 20 fingers. It was just on the back side of it.
The system started back here somewhere.
Exactly. I don't know what I was thinking. I was new, right? I didn't know. And so when I started doing some videos, and I'm like, guys, I got hair. And they're like, how many fingers is that? I was like, finger what?
Back here somewhere.
I was like, what do you mean fingers? Like, I don't understand. I think it looks good. And they're like, yeah, that's like 26 fingers. What are you doing? And I'm like, I like it. And so then I played with it. I was like, that's good feedback. And I'd move it forward to where it is right now. And I like it. It feels really good. If I went any lower, it kind of looks Neanderthal-y. If I go too far back, it's just literally just planted on top of my head. So
yeah,
but you learn. Yeah, exactly. You gotta try it out, and it's not always gonna be perfect, but the choice is, do you enjoy being thin hair, bald hair, whatever situation you're in, or would you like to try something different? And so we try something different, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. And actually, on that point that you mentioned about initially sort of making, a couple of sort of mistakes in terms of putting it too far back and then maybe putting it too far forward, I would like to sort of make a shout out to the hair system community on Facebook, because I know that we're both part of the same groups, and I do find it actually a very, very helpful, supportive set of, in general terms. You do get, the odd person who's, not particularly polite or not particularly helpful in their comments, but a vast majority of people I find are actually super, super helpful. And we actually do look out for each other. And if someone says, can you give me honest feedback on this? Majority of people will give them sort of pointers in the right direction. And it's nice to have a community like that. When I first started wearing, we didn't actually have any Facebook groups. They've only really come up the last 2 years. But it's a supportive bunch of people. I don't know what your experience, whether you'd agree with that, but I've certainly found.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's enough of us where it's like, well, gosh, we went through our own process. It was hard because it was just kind of a solo venture. And why not share useful information? Why not kind of help, other people navigate the same way that we did and shorten the time gap that it's going to take them, give them more information up front so that they can make a better decision and change effectively their life. Why not do that? So yeah, I think most people have been really supportive as far as feedback and comments on videos, things like that. You do get those trolls every once in a while that would never say any of these things to your face,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. In fact, I did an interview with my now wife, but my girlfriend at the time, and we just had a frank, open discussion about her thoughts when I got a hair system and some of the realities behind that. And she said, "Hey, some of my friends thought it was really weird that you got hair, and they'd snicker about it and they'd make their own jokes. But have they ever said that to my face? Never once. And in fact, those same people really enjoy how I look with hair now. And so it's really kind of interesting. The confidence that comes with just doing what you want to do for your life, having ownership over that. It doesn't matter. The hair could look terrible, but you might absolutely walk into that room with the confidence that the guy next to you does not have, and it's a total game changer. My life is a lot different with the confidence I have now. My business, a lot different with the confidence I have now. I'm thoroughly leading my life versus just kind of sitting on the sidelines saying, woe is me, right? Why am I bald? Right? Why did this happen to me? And when we flip that script, now we can make those decisions. That happened first before I ever got the hair. That was just an expression of how I was feeling internally. And I think that's true for a lot of guys. We're looking to level up in a lot of ways. And hair just happens to be a physical representation of what that can look like.
Yeah. And taking ownership of it rather than sort of, sitting on the sides and being like, well, this is me for life. This is
Yeah.
the hand I've been dealt. Actually taking ownership and just being like, no, I can take control of this. And, if getting a hair system will improve my confidence and how I feel about myself, then it's 100%. And I say this so much in my videos, it's 100% worth it. It's not about what other people say to you or what other people think. It's about how you think and how you feel about your own particular appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is cool. Like, I wish I could say I don't care what anybody says or thinks about me. Actually, to a large extent, I don't care. I care about those people, likely, especially if they're close to me. I care about those people. But there's an interesting thing happens when you feel really good. And I've gotten great, like there's people that have met me only with hair. And, I get really great compliments. It does feel good. We do like it. They're like, oh man, your hair is like super good. I'm like, thank you. It feels really good. But it's just one of those teeter totters. My confidence is there first. And lo and behold, I get great feedback and my confidence improves. And oh my gosh. And so it's this cool, teeter totter effect. And effectively, that confidence spreads everywhere. It's not just we're confident in our looks and we're not so confident over here. No, we're freaking amazing. And all these other columns of our life, these other tracks also come with it. So it's been phenomenal, and so I again, kudos to you for, really being a pioneer and putting out content that is supporting people on this journey. I mean, it's not simple to do. We take the time and effort to do interviews like this and edit videos and just put that word out there and respond to comments and the emails and social media and Facebook groups and all those things. So kudos to you for really stepping up and putting out good content. Because I think now more than ever, a lot of us are looking at ways to grow. And this is a pioneer's kind of adventure right here. So thank you for being one of those pioneers.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate those kind words, and kudos to you as well. And there's a handful of us wearers out there on YouTube, and the reason we want to do it, I think it comes from the place of, we might have found it quite tough learning how to do all of these, rebonds and cleans and all of that kind of stuff when we first started. So let's sort of shorten the journey. That's the way I see it for people who are thinking about wearing a system now. And tell them that it's actually, it's not that hard if you know what to do and you've got the right instructions and the right advice. Another thing I always try and plug on my channel is don't go to clinics, because you're going to spend thousands of dollars a year when you really don't need to. You can get a good system that can last you 3-4 months for about $350. You don't need to be spending $2,000 per system. And if we can get one message across to like viewers, it's like, do not allow yourself to get ripped off, because a lot of us when we start are in a vulnerable position, aren't we?
Yep.
We want hair and we're like, we don't know where to go. So the easy thing seems to be to go to a clinic rather than actually taking the plunge and doing it yourself.
I agree with that. I've seen that, when I first started, I was reaching out to local shops here that actually do systems, wigs, for men and women. And I reached out, and it wasn't, honestly, it wasn't, what they quoted me wasn't too outrageous, but it was essentially $900 a month or a quarter, depending on what I wanted. And I was like, that seems reasonable, but I have nothing to compare this to. So $900 US, that means I get a new system. They're going to cut it in. They're going to do it for me. It's going to look great. I'm going to feel great. But I'm like, that's $12,000 a year. I mean, that's 12 grand just for hair. Okay. Yep. So how much do I want the hair? And so now I go to YouTube, I'm looking up different things and I see people doing it themselves. And I'm like, well, still, now I got to learn how to do it. I got to buy these products. I got to push buttons on Amazon. I got to go to Lord Hair or LaVivid or whatever company. And that seems like a lot of work. But now I'm seeing guys like, yep, I got my system in. Actually, I just got a new system in the other day. It's sitting right there. But how simple is it? I do all my other shopping online. Why can't I just push a couple buttons, get exactly what I want? It's now in my possession. I buy a couple of products to adhere it. I got some cotton balls. I got a little alcohol, rubbing alcohol. I have some wine here too, but that's a different story. And so I have these things that I need. I don't have to spend $900 a month. I can spend $300 a quarter plus an extra $50 to $100 if I need all new product to do this thing. So now we're at not 12,000, but 1,200. That makes a lot of sense. And I have ownership over how it looks, what I get to do with it, the frequency of cleaning and installing, and I don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. So I'm right there with you, man. The DIY community around this is absolutely huge, and not taking anything away from salons and places that offer services like that, because they know that they have a market there. There's going to be people that will do that, and that makes even more sense than doing it themselves. Totally get it. But having said that, can we do it ourselves? Of course we can. Can it have a great effect? Absolutely. Can it be the same, if not better than having somebody else do it for you? Yeah, I also say that that's true too. So again, just another variable in that process, but do what works for you. That's that common theme here.
100%. And I actually think that's quite a good note to end the call on, Michael, because, we've ended it with the sort of, the DIY community helping each other out, teaching each other, the tricks of the trade, as it were, and saving a heck of a lot of money along the way when, people who might be quite short of money, who don't necessarily have the money to go to a salon, they can know that, if they're willing to put in a bit of legwork, like learning to ride a bike, it's actually affordable for anyone, really. Oh my
gosh. And I think that is the note to leave it off on. The DIY aspect of this thing, I 100% recommend everyone to try it themselves. I mean, sure, maybe if you feel, that you need to have somebody else do it for you, absolutely go for it. But I'm going to tell you, you can save a lot of the time, a lot of the money by doing it yourself. And it's actually very simple to do. So, it's an easy way to get your hair back, get some confidence back. And, it's been a fun ride. I think you'd agree. That's why we're still wearing hair. It's been pretty amazing. So.
Absolutely. And, even the cleaning and the rebond, it's a bit of a labor of love, it's just like, it can actually be quite enjoyable.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I look at it as self-care time. I'm like, hey, this
Yeah,
next hour, I'm just gonna
TLC.
take my time. I'm gonna clean. I'm gonna sterilize everything. I'm gonna do a deep hair condition on this deal. It's gonna be nice. I'm gonna shave. I have like the little brush with the
Yeah,
shaving cream, and it's
me
like,
too. Yeah,
yeah, I've
get
got
the
like
razor
a
out.
scrub. Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
feels good. Like I use it as a whole thing, and it's nice to do for ourselves. So the whole process, I would encourage anyone on the planet that is dealing with hair loss, thinning hair, or any other affliction to do a little digging, and even make the plunge, take the next step in getting a hair system. It can literally change lives.
Absolutely. What a great way to end. Thank you so much for your time, Michael. For anyone watching, please do check out Michael's channel that I named at the top of the program, which is called Michael Joseph. That is right, isn't it, Michael?
That is it. Yep.
Michael Joseph. You've got some great content on there. Thank you so much, Michael, for giving me your time. To my viewers and subscribers, I really hope you enjoyed this chat. Hoping to do a few more of them, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing Michael's video on hair dyeing a system.
Coming soon.
Mike, thanks so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Adam,
I'm going to
thank you for having me. Absolutely appreciated being here. Absolutely.